Hello and welcome to GamesRadar's video review of Mario Kart 8. I'm Associate Editor David Horton. I'm joined by Justin Towell, also Associate Editor, who has played and finished and reviewed Mario Kart 8.
I have.
Right, obviously kind of a big deal, new big Nintendo franchise coming to the shiny old Wii U. First question, how next-gen-y does it feel?
How next-gen-y does it feel? Well, it looks next-gen-y. At least in terms of how it moved up from the Wii version to this. I mean, it doesn't look quite as good as, say, a PlayStation 4 game would, but it still looks very lovely. I mean, you know, the generational difference isn't that big these days anyway.
No.
So you're looking at extremely solid, cartoony visuals, really nicely animated, fantastic colours, lovely animations. It's a very pretty game.
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky to kind of make, I suppose, the cartoony Nintendo art style really pop like that with kind of new tech. But I mean, are there any special bells and whistles they're thrown in there to give it a bit of an extra shove?
Well, you can now have a sort of slow motion replay where you can see right in close, you can see all the sparks coming up, things like that. When you go through an item box, there's always distortion effects. It's very pretty. But aside from that, not really. I mean, it looks very much like an HD version of Mario Kart 7, which is basically what this game is. I mean, sure, you've got new tracks anyway, so it is a new game, but it's very much like Mario Kart 7. Okay,
segueing smoothly onto the newness then. The big feature they've been touting quite hard this time is the much vaunted anti-gravity racing.
Yes.
Which obviously people are excited because it looks cool, it looks a bit F-Zero-y, we're not getting an F-Zero anytime soon.
Yeah.
How big a difference does it make?
It doesn't make that much difference, to be honest. The F-Zero comparisons, I can see where you're coming from, and there are sections of track where you do think, that's like F-Zero. There's this bit in Bowser's Castle where you're on a mesh, and it feels very F-Zero, but that's about the only time it does. The rest of the time, the anti-gravity stuff is used for wall riding, so you can race on walls that are 90 degrees to the actual track, which is exciting. You know, it's a bit different, but when you're actually just on basic track and the track goes up the wall or on the ceiling, you don't actually feel like you're on the wall or the ceiling. You're just, you know, technically you're upside down, but you wouldn't know it unless someone said, by the way, you're upside down. Because you're still just turning left and right, and you're still drifting like you would. The carts still handle the same as they would. It's actually not that different.
So it's still, the camera flips and makes it look like you're still the right way up, effectively.
Yeah, the camera stays behind you. When you do actually ride a wall, then it does move to like a 45-degree slope, and then just when you're about to come off the wall and you can't actually screw it up, then it does go to 90 degrees or almost there. So you get the impression that you are on the wall, but you're never actually racing sort of on the ceiling of the screen, because then you'd have to be turning left to go right, and that would confuse things. So I can see why they didn't do it. Well, you could even stop. You could stop basically while you're upside down, and you won't fall off. You're stuck to the track. It's like the floor.
Okay, so segueing again, as you mentioned, handling and driving in corners and jumping and things. Obviously, every Mario Kart is subtly different in the way it plays. People think they're not, but they totally are. What's the core racing like this time around?
Well, I think the problem I'm having with it is that it's not terribly exciting. I mean, it's not a terribly fast experience. Even on 150cc, you're never really flying along at 1,000,000 miles an hour. You're trundling along at a decent lick. And I guess compared to other games, the tracks, especially this time, the new original tracks, do seem very wide and very flat. The corners are often quite shallow, so you can drift around them, but you're not really taxed by them. There are some really nice corners on later tracks where it gets a bit more interesting, but never really interesting enough. This is very much about giving you a lovely solid playground and not too much to have to dodge and avoid, and then saying, go on, have some fun with each other, basically. You know, have some fun with the new weapons.
Segue 3, having fun with each other in a strictly PG sense. Obviously, everything's better in multiplayer. Mario Kart fundamentally is one of the classic couch co-op games, or couch versus games, however you want to do it. How good's the local this time around?
The local is not as exciting or fun as I expected. Now, I know that we played it in the office, and you yourself had a go.
I have had a dabble.
Yes, and we got other people who were excited to play it, to sit down and have a go. They're like, oh, Mario Kart, let me have a go. And they sat down and they played it, and then after a few races, they stopped playing it. Now, for me, there's something wrong there. And I know that our US colleagues have had a great time with it. So, you know, it might just be that something was different on that day. I suspect it might be to do with the controls. We had the gamepad, and we used one of the Wii wheels that came with Mario Kart Wii. And the other two people were just using a standard Wiimote. Now, the Wiimote feels a bit detached from the game because you haven't really got any feedback. It's quite awkward on the buttons. is not ideal. And I did notice that people who did try the gamepad and they did have the proper buttons and everything and the sticks did have a better time, but even then...
Is it significantly better time though? I mean, does it radically change the whole game?
Well, I'd say it does change the game in terms of how you feel attached to the action.
Yeah.
But I don't think it brings it back up to the level of Mario Kart 7.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Okay, so that's local. Bit okay, maybe not quite as good as it could have been.
Yeah.
But what about online? Because that's always been a problem for Nintendo, hasn't it? So
yeah, actually the online is excellent.
Right.
It's really, really good. In two different ways, actually. The races themselves, when you're racing against other real people, it looks and feels exactly like the offline mode. It's so solid. I mean, we were playing UK versus US GamesRadar offices, and it was like they were in the same room.
Oh, brilliant!
Yeah, really, really good. And also, you've got their names above the carts, which I don't believe it does in offline. Which again might be a problem in offline because you can't see who is who unless you know they're playing as Bowser, you know they're playing as Luigi, that sort of thing. So when you get to see someone's name go flying past you and you think, I've got to beat Cooper. Yeah. You've got to beat Cooper.
Yeah, of course you do.
It all gets really interesting, of course.
Yeah. Good online options in general?
Yeah, you can change the weapon type, so you could just have shells or you could have no weapons at all. Yeah. It's got a random selector for the track as well, where everyone chooses which track they want, and then out of those it will choose a random option, which is a pretty good compromise. But then, of course, the battle mode we have to talk about, because the battle mode is not as good as it used to be at all. You remember battle mode used to have, it's balloon battle, isn't it? Where you have 3 balloons on your carts, and if you get hit, then one bursts, and when they're all hit, all gone, you're out. Yeah. Which you wouldn't think you could go wrong.
No, it's been the same since 1992. It's always worked.
Yeah, it's always been brilliant. But they changed it so you're not really in arenas anymore. You're actually on the tracks themselves.
That's weird.
It is weird. And they've opened up some of the sort of lanes that you can see while you're racing. And you think, is that a shortcut? Oh no, it's closed off. That's because in multiplayer battle mode, you now get to go through tunnels and things like that weren't there in single player, but you're still on a racetrack, which
a linear loop, effectively.
Yeah, which means you could actually be the other side of the track from the only other person left in the game, and the clock's going down, and you're like, I can't find them, so you stop and start going around the other way, but then they've probably done the same thing because they're looking for you. Then you end up not seeing each other.
They're surely going to kill any sense of focused, kind of really frenetic combat that stuff is built on.
Yeah, it does. I mean, at the start of the match when there are lots of people around and you get a green shell and you see someone coming down the straight towards you, it's quite easy to line up your shot and get them, but that's not the same as being in an arena and bouncing it off the walls. Yeah,
and sort of power sliding circles strafing around each other and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so all of the above in mind, how have you scored it?
I have scored it 4 out of 5. We're looking at a very high quality video game. There's not a lot that's actually wrong with the core experience. You know, the weapons are as balanced as they can probably be. You can still get too far out in front and then nothing's really going to get you, especially now there is a sort of defense mechanism for the blue shell. If you get the right item, the horn, you can blast it and beat it. But although it's a high quality game, it just doesn't seem as fun. It feels like going through the motions, and I never really feel like, oh, I've got to get back into playing Mario Kart. I play it and I think, that was really nice, and then I can put it down. And that's not something that you should usually be able to say about Mario Kart.
It's never been the way it's ever been, is it? No. Okay, so if you need any more detail than that, obviously Justin has written a very complete word-based review on the internet. You can find that on GamesRadar.com. Otherwise, Justin, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave.